lock-in today. I'm Casey, I'm the Sales Director taking care of Singapore government business in Trend Micro. Let me welcome you to this workshop today for GCC onboarding to Cloud One workload security. This is a separate track to the other workshop which we are doing for tenants migrating out from GovTech CTS AMHIPS platform. Today we are focusing on onboarding direct into Cloud One. A bit of background here, Cloud One is a pure SaaS platform which was launched in 2019, which is a single security service platform for all cloud builders. Cloud One consists of 7 cloud services, which the following presenter will be sharing a slightly more details. I'm proud to share, if you have not heard, that Cloud One is hosted in Singapore. In fact, all of Trend Micro's SaaS offering, including Apex One, SaaS, Vision One, our EDR, and Sandbox as a service are all now in Singapore. This should comply with all the requirements for data sovereignty. We have also cleared TRA for Cloud One as a platform. If your security officer accepts the 4 TRA raised by CSG, you are cleared to go. For more details, please contact myself or any of the account managers. So once again, thank you very much for joining this workshop, and I shall pass the time to the rest of the presenters who will be sharing more on the pre-onboarding checklist and how to set up the environment that includes networking and system logins. So sit back and enjoy the rest of the session. Thank you.
Hello there, I'm Paul from Trend Micro. Welcome to today's onboarding session. Today we're going to be doing 2 things. First, we're going to do a briefing on how Cloud One workload works on GCC. And second, there will be a practical session with a hands-on lab. We have set up a copy of Cloud One security platform in Singapore region so that users, will enjoy to have a platform with a data sovereignty, This platform is also has been cleared by GovTech CSG. Now, what does this mean, This allows you to use various security services in our platform when you're building your applications. Please enjoy the session today. I will hand it over to my colleagues. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for being here in this virtual onboarding session by Trend Micro Cloud One. So my name is Clara and I'm the account manager for the cloud security business. So I'll take you through a bit on what you have access to right now that you're on the Cloud One platform, and also some steps to get you started to get Cloud One running in your environment. So just want to show this slide where this is the main context of the cloud environment today. So this is why Trend Micro Cloud One is being created, is to just address the needs to secure these elements in the cloud right now. So in the next few slides, I will show you different modules that we offer to address various needs. So firstly, we have conformity, which does configuration checks. Because Gartner, there's a research by Gartner which mentions that about most of the security breaches are due to misconfiguration of the cloud, of the environment, of the settings in place today. So this is something which we advocate for our various customers, to get this up and running environment to ensure that it's being continuously monitored against misconfigurations, to keep it up to the best standards and practices and compliance standards set across different industries. So next, we have our file storage security solution. So this is done so as a response to ensuring that your files that is being uploaded to your S3 buckets or your blob storage is being scanned for malware as it enters or lands into those storage spaces in the cloud. So because malware could actually transfer laterally within your networks, which is why there's a strong need for this solution, which we've been talking to a couple of agencies due to the requirements set to ensure that there's malware scanning for your files in your cloud storage. So next, we have container security. So we secure end-to-end from the point of developing your images to having controls for your policies to even running your containers itself. We provide this coverage to secure it. And also there's servers security that we provide through application security, because today some applications are made through codes where there isn't an agent that can be planted in the environment, which is how we offer this module in place to respond to this need. So we also have network security where there are cloud native firewalls in place, we believe that this module of ours could fill in the gaps to complement with these native firewalls to ensure that there's threat prevention and malware detection capabilities within your network. Last but not least, we have our Outlook Security, which you're on today to onboard within your agency. So this is a main summary of what I've mentioned earlier. So with onboarding to Cloud One, we will have access to these modules as well in one platform. So the good news is that we have actually cleared this Cloud One module with the GovTech CSG team, where we have complied to the TRA requirements and standards. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to your Trend Micro account manager. We'd be glad to have a discussion with you on that. So next, I just want to take you through the things you have to take note of as you onboard Cloud One into your environment. So this is just a pointers or your checklist that you have to take note of, which consists of these 3 points, which I'll elaborate later on. So in every left-hand corner of the slides, you will see there's a reference section there. For any kind of clarifications that you might need, you can use it as a reference point for the documentation that you've received through our team. So I'll take you through the procurement of licenses. So there are 2 ways to procure this Cloud One module within your environment. So first is private offers offered through the marketplaces like AWS or Azure. And then we also have another option of having this contract through your bulk tender 16005. So if you want to add on any licenses, so for Outlook Security, you could purchase it through the bulk tender 16005. However, for the other modules, these are not in bulk tender, but this could be done through private place offer, where you could just talk to our account managers to discuss more about options for that, because our team has done up a special pricing for government agencies. And right now I'll talk to you about the creation of your Cloud One accounts within your environment. So all agencies have a point of contact where they will receive a $0 private offer, and you'll be need to accept it. So when this is in the process, do take note there's a time validity period of actually creating your Cloud One account. So that means that once you accept a private offer, within 1 hour, you have to create your Cloud One account. So in the page itself, you'll be redirected to your Cloud One account page over here, which it shows this page over here. So for account alias, you want to make sure that you pick something friendly or easy to recognize by your team. And also, this is a very important note, when you please select the correct region here. So it's Singapore 1. And you cannot change region if you created it in another region, let's say US or other parts of the world. So ensure that from the start, this is created and being selected properly. And after, you can move on to do your other steps. So once you created it, you could actually use this account to invite users to the account for various access over here. And just to take note, because once you invited certain users to this account with their email IDs, let's say 10 people, right? Make sure that they do not use this invited accounts for a hands-on lab, because we might, we made mistakes. We might unknowingly use this account and draw down real-time hours. We do not want you to waste hours on that. So just make sure that users, if they go into hands-on lab, make sure that they're using a trial account within the Cloud One console. So we wouldn't recommend using your actual email that's being tagged to the account that is linked to the private offer that's being accepted. Yeah. So also, we will encourage your users to enable MFA in the Cloud One account that they're being invited to. So just make sure that your MFA required is being marked as yes over here and to save it. So next, I'll talk about how you can add your AWS accounts to your Outlook Security solution. So just follow the steps of the documentation. So you can see the reference point, section 2.5, where you can just go to the console of Outlook Security, go to computers, and you just add your AWS accounts. However, for this case, do take note for adding AWS accounts, in step 14 of role creation, do make sure that you set a point of using a permission boundary to control the maximum role permissions there, and filter it with the name GCCI account boundary. This is a very important step, because if you miss out on this step, you actually fail to create a role there. So you want to make sure that this is being done smoothly and successfully. So for Azure accounts, just do the same step for the first in the first bit by just adding an Azure account there, and from there you're all set. Unless there are any further arrangements that we need to take for Azure accounts, we will update the team. But for now, just follow this step. So that's about it for my point. I believe my colleague will talk to you more about the various steps you have to take note of as you create and onboard your Cloud One account. So thank you very much, and we hope that you have a good and successful time to onboard your Cloud One account in your environment. Cheers.
Hello everyone, nice to meet you guys. I'm Thomas. I'm from Trend Micro. I'm the account manager taking care of the public sector. Nice to meet you guys. So today I'm going to cover the private endpoint and networking requirements for the Cloud One workload onboarding. So this is the recommended architectures for VPC endpoints running on the AWS. So one VPC endpoint per AWS account is required to do these setups. So firstly, you need to create the VPC endpoints in one VPCs. So other VPC will then be paired to this VPC hosting the VPC endpoint. This is to allow the communication between the Cloud One servers to the VPC. Okay, so your account managers will also send you the private offer where you need to accept that private offer and then create the Cloud One ID. So after that, your account manager will then send you a network request form. So which you will find the service name for you to do a network request. So you can send this form to GCC_tech at trendmicro.com for approval once you fill up this form. So the subsequent slides, I'm going to guide you on how to fill up this form. So when you are creating the VPC endpoints, you need to ensure that the security group is allowing outbound traffic to subnet on port 3128. And also, you have to attach the security group to the VPC endpoint, right? So you also need to fill up the endpoint IDs and owner ID in the network request form provided by your account managers. So please go into the portal and see the the endpoint ID and owner ID. So some of the things you need to ensure, right? So you need to ensure that your routing table is configured accordingly to what is shown here in these slides. One of the important things that you need to take note is to ensure that the destinations, right, need to be filled up with the required peering ID. So this to ensure the smooth routing between the VPCs. So 2 points to note when creating the security groups. One is to ensure that the security group outbound rules for the EC2 instance is pointing to port 3128. Right, so you also need to ensure that the security group inbound rules for the VPC endpoint is listening to port 3128 from the various VPCs. So from the same diagram shown here in the slides, it can also be found on the AWS documentation session 7.2.2. This is for the creation of the Route 53 for VPC endpoints. This is optional but recommended as best practice, especially if you have multiple endpoints to manage. Okay, then yeah, I've gone through for the AWS network requests and the VPC creations. This is basically for the Azure private endpoint. So this is the recommended architectures for private endpoints running on Azure. So same things here, right? One private endpoint is required per Azure account. You can create the private endpoints in one VNet. Other VNet will be paired to this VNet hosting the private endpoint so as to allow the communication between our Cloud One servers and the VNets. So a network request is still need to be done. So once you accept the private offer, once you create the Cloud One ID, your account managers will also send you a network request form, which you will find the service name for you to do a network request. These are the details you need to fill in for the connection names and the private endpoint name. So once you fill up the network request form using this info, please send it to Trend Micro with the email gcc_tech@trendmicro.com. Okay, so please ensure you have your VNet peering done and ensure that the necessary routing has been configured between your VMs to the private endpoints before connecting to the Cloud One workload security. So that's all for the networking part and the private endpoints creation parts. So I'll hand over to the next presenter. Nice to meet you guys. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you for attending today's workshop. My name is Titus. I'm account manager for the government sector. The topic that I will be covering is on loggings. I believe everyone is aware that logging is a requirement to be set up. So in this slide, right, it is a broad framework of how we set up the logs for AWS as well as Azure. It's 4 major steps, and we will go into details in the later slides. So the scripts will be provided to the customer, both for AWS as well as Azure. These are the variables that we will be covering in the scripts. And these are the details for each variables. Of course, you can refer for more details in the onboarding guide, section 3.22. This is how the actual script looks like. So after setting up the scripts, right, remember to do a test to make sure the SNS topic works. Now we will move into Azure. So this is how the Azure function works in terms of piping logs. These are the variables that is required as part of the Azure logging setup. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Good day, I'm Eileen, Government Account Manager. I'm here to speak about the onboarding of your agents to Cloud One workload security and share some troubleshooting tips as well. We'll go on to the onboarding first. Adding the endpoints in the proxy settings of Cloud One workload security. On the left, you will see the AWS VPC endpoint DNS added in the address of this proxy. On the right, you will see the Azure private endpoint IP added in the Azure proxy. After the proxies has been added, please ensure the information and details of the endpoints are correct before proceeding to the next step. If you have multiple endpoints because of multiple AWS or Azure accounts, then please ensure the names can be clearly identified in order to prevent confusion when doing the activation. Let me bring to your attention the name under the proxy server, which is TM GCC AWS proxy and TM GCC Azure proxy, which we will show you how to activate the agents in the next 2 slides. In this screen, we would like to highlight the 2 important fields when configuring the deployment script for AWS. Whereas for this screen, we would like to show you the important fields when configuring the deployment scripts for Azure. If there are no issues running the deployment scripts, please do double check on the status of the computers in the C1 Workload Securities Computer tab. A successful deployment and healthy agent should have a status managed online. If you see warning messages, the next section will bring you through on how to overcome it. Let's run through the troubleshooting section. If after activation of the computers, you may be prompted with a warning status, sensors, good file reputation, and predictive machine learning service disconnected. Don't worry, it is not critical, but you will need to tweak some configurations accordingly. You can click on the policy and use the AWS VPC endpoint to connect to the Trend Micro Global Server. In order to do so, you can click on the computer with this issue, go to the settings under General, see the network settings for sensors, good file reputation, and predictive machine learning service. Configure it to use the proxy, which is the VPC endpoint for your AWS account. Okay, likewise, in Azure, you can click on the policy and use the Azure private endpoint to connect to the Trend Micro global server. In order to do this, you can click on the computer with this issue, go to the settings under General, see the network settings for Census, Good File Reputation, and Predictive Machine Learning Service. Configure it to use the proxy, which is the private endpoint for your Azure account.
Hey everyone, good day to you. I'm Ellie, the account manager from Trend Micro. I will be going through the Cloud One Workload Security FAQ and few important appendix items that need your attention. Okay, some of you may be wondering how do you seek for help moving forward. There is a support page that allows you to log a case. As you can see from the Cloud One main page, right? At the top right corner, you just click Help and Support to raise your support case. In the support page, you can just fill in your query, also CC your account manager that's supporting you. After the case has been logged, our support team will assist you from there via email. So furthermore, please refer to Session 6 FAQ to find out the question that has been asked. So now let's move on to appendix page. There is an appendix to add Route 53 for AWS VPC endpoint and private DNS for Azure private endpoint. This is an optional item, but we recommend you to do this best practice if you have multiple endpoints to manage. So further to that, you can just refer to the onboarding document under section 7.1. Also, we recommend you to set up the networking requirement. And don't do a bulk deployment for Cloud One Workload Security first, but do a small sample testing on a few agents first to ensure it is working and running. Once this has been tested right, you can just proceed to do the deployment of the agent across the same network. Okay, so we recommend you to do two types of schedule scanning every week. One, which schedule a recommendation scan on the OS and the application that install in the server for vulnerability. Second, to schedule a malware scan to perform a weekly scan on top of the real-time scanning. Okay, on top of that, please refer to section 7.3 for creating the step. And lastly, we recommend you to create a custom role if out-of-the-box role on Cloud One Workload Security is not sufficient for the user. For instance, if you like to have more permission that read only but not at the same level as full access user, you can configure custom role for such situation. So please refer to section 7.4 to create the custom role. Okay, I think that's all for now. Enjoy for the onboarding session. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. My name is Grace. I'm from the Trend Micro Cloud team. So in this session, we're going to go through the Cloud One Workload Security Onboarding Hands-on Lab together with you. So this is the table of contents of what we're going to go through today. So first, we're going to give you an overview of what you can expect out of today's session. And then we're going to set you up properly for the hands-on lab. And then you'll be starting the hands-on lab on your own. Then after that, you'll be going into the real environment and we have some tips to share with you. So first, the overview of the hands-on lab. So first of all, we just want to highlight that this entire workshop is focused on Cloud One Workload Security Onboarding. So at this stage, you have done the migration already and now you're ready to try out some of the modules. So as part of that, we're going to onboard 2 Windows and Red Hat instances. And then we're going to share with you how you can turn on the anti-malware and the host-based IPS modules within the Cloud One Workload Security Console. So in this session, you do not have to create any resources on your own. Everything is created for you, including security groups or NSGs, VPC points for AWS, private points for Azure, and EC2 instances and VMs. So now the first step is to set up your Cloud One account properly. So to do that, you will have to create a Cloud One trial account. Once that's done, you have to set up the multi-factor authentication within the console itself. Afterwards, you'll be adding the endpoints as proxies in the Cloud One Workload Security Console. So step 2 will be doing the deployment of the Red Hat instance. So in this case, you'll be doing the deployment via a deployment script, and then we're going to test out 2 modules. So the first one is an anti-malware module, so that's very straightforward. And the second one, we're going to test out the host-based IPS module. So as part of that, we have 2 modes for you to try. The first one is called a detect mode. So in this mode, we'll be detecting and logging cyber attacks for you, but we will not be blocking them. So if you're a developer testing applications, this is the mode that you want to use. The second one is the prevent mode. So in this case, the software will be blocking all the cybersecurity attacks for you. So it works really, really well in the real environment. Similarly, for the Windows agent, we'll be going through the entire deployment process with you. Now, what do you need for the hands-on lab? Well, first thing you need is the PC or laptop with internet access. And we do recommend Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge as the browser. So if you have Safari, please try not to use that. Third, you need a valid email address to apply for a Cloud One trial account. So you can do that either with your work email address or personal email address. So that's completely up to you. Fourth, you need a remote desktop client on your PC and laptop to get into the lab environment. So if you're using a Windows OS, you already have that as part of your PC. And if you're using the Mac OS, you have to go to the App Store and download this thing called the Microsoft Remote Desktop. And lastly, we just want you to allocate 1 hour of your time. But of course, we have had attendees and clients who have done it well under 1 hour. So you can definitely take it as a challenge and see how fast you can finish this hands-on lab. So now we're ready to start. The challenges are just under this video. So if you scroll down, you will be able to see the first challenge, which is for you to create a Cloud One trial account. But let's just go through some of the widgets on this page first. The first thing you have to do is open up the lab guide. So for this, we'll show you how you can remote access into remote desktop into the lab environment. So just follow the steps from there, and the lab environment will be set up for you. Second, if you click on the pop-up button, it will open up the exact same page on a different tab. So you can watch this video and do the challenges at the same time. So that's also up to you. In the FAQ document, we cover some of the most commonly asked questions from our previous attendees as well as customers. So if you have any challenges while you are creating the account or going through the challenges, you can refer to this FAQ document. But let's say you still don't get the answer, you can now reach out to our backend team by clicking on the lab support button. So we do have a team of solutions architects who will be with you throughout this entire 1 hour, and they will be supporting you throughout the hands-on lab. Cool. Now how you can navigate to how you can do navigation across the widgets. Firstly, you have to get a lab. So by clicking on the lab or key button, you'll be issued a key, and that's the lab ID that you'll be using for the lab environment. And now you can start a challenge anytime by clicking on the first challenge. So the challenge works this way. You will not be able to unlock new challenges until you clear the previous challenges. So in this case, you are not able to skip ahead and sort of do the challenges that you want to do. In total, you will have to clear 17 challenges. So some of them are really pretty simple, and you can actually do them within 5 minutes. Some are slightly more complex, so it requires a little bit of thinking, a little bit of getting your hands dirty. Again, if you have any issues throughout the lab experience, please talk to us by clicking on the lab support button. We'll be responding to you pretty quickly and help you out with whatever challenge you might be having. So now you have done the hands-on lab and you are kind of familiar with the Cloud One Workload Security Console already. You are ready to do the onboarding in the real environment. So here are some tips that we have for you, and these are also covered in a document that we have as part of this entire workshop. So point number one, make sure that your Cloud One account is set up and also connected to your CSP, your cloud services provider, be it AWS or Azure. Secondly, you have to create the endpoints and make sure they are accepted. Then you need to test the networking by activating new VMs via the endpoints you just created in step 2. In step 4, you need to set up the logging so you are receiving the logs. Step 5, you can choose the frequency at which the scans will be carried out. So you can either choose daily, weekly, or monthly. We do recommend at least a weekly scan to make sure you get all the updated logs. So yeah, that's everything, and now you're ready to onboard your workloads into Cloud One Workload Security. So we hope you have fun. Thank you, and see you.
you.